Welcome to Awkward Teenage Years. My name is Will Clegg, and I am one of the co-producers of this show, an occasional host as well. How many people, just by round of applause, have ever been to one of our shows before? All right, so the rest of you are Awkward Teenage Years virgins, yeah? All right. So here's what you're in for. This is the show where we gather together in this sometimes very cold basement, and we reveal our teenage trauma for your entertainment. You're going to hear a lot of true stories tonight from middle school and high school, things like first kisses and first dates and failing tests, and really it's about coming of age. That's why we keep coming back and doing this show. We're now almost at our 4-year anniversary in this space, which is really cool. So we've assembled some of New York City's finest storytellers for you here tonight, down here in the front row. And we'll be getting to them very shortly. But first, while we wait for any latecomers to arrive, I'm going to tell you a little tale of my own awkward teenage years. When I think about wintertime, especially in high school, I think about this guy. In the 10th grade, I had just come back to a school that I went to from K to 6. So it's this small private school in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I grew up. At the end of 6th grade, I went off to a public school for 3 years, what I like to call my sabbatical. And if you've heard any of my other stories, my solo show, you know that didn't go great for me in general. I got bullied a lot. I got really into selling drugs, both real and fake. I was not exactly living up to my potential. So I retreated back to the safety of the school that I'd gone to before in 10th grade. And when I left, I was a little nerdy goody two-shoes. And when I came back, I was still a nerdy goody two-shoes, but now I had long hair. And I looked a lot cooler, and people thought that I was hard for having gone to the public school for 3 years. And it was a small school. There were only 100 kids in my class. So we all knew each other. You know, we knew each other's faces and names, but that's going to happen, by the way, throughout the night. Just the pipes in the wintertime in this theater. So just try to ignore it. I will too. So we knew each other's faces and names, you know, but a lot happens in 7th, 8th, and 9th grades. Like, your whole personality can change, sometimes like several times over. And so I felt like I hadn't really kept up with people, and I didn't really know them anymore, even though they were all familiar to me. You know, so I was having trouble kind of reconnecting to a lot of my old acquaintances and friends. And what had happened to a lot of them, especially in that summer right before 10th grade, is they kind of adopted this like aggressive Southern persona out of nowhere. Like, kids who I've known their whole lives suddenly had these like deep Southern drawls, you know? They don't even really it's not a Charlotte accent at all. It's almost like they're trying to affect a Texan accent. And they're like all into like hunting and fishing now, and pickup trucks and country music. And I'm like, who are you people? They all have nicknames they've given each other. Like this kid that I knew my whole life as Pierce, now everybody calls him Nature Boy. And our friend Steven, his last name was Ezel, and now he's known as Easy. And then the weirdest one was this guy Roger, who's from Ohio. He comes back with a full Southern accent and the new nickname Bird Dog. I still don't know what that means or where that comes from, you know? So I'm having trouble like reconnecting to everybody, and that's made worse when I try out for the school musical and get cast in the school musical. So I'm like further set apart from all the popular kids. But they kind of throw me a lifeline. In January, traditionally, all the upperclassmen go up to the North Carolina mountains, and they have like a big party over the weekend. And so being in 10th grade, I'm kind of on the fringe of being able to attend that, but I have some friends who are on the football team, Nature Boy, one of them, and he invited me along with a bunch of other guys to go up to their little cabin and stay the weekend and then go to like the big party. And the parties are legendary. You know, there's going to be kegs of beer there. I've never just seen a keg of beer. I've just seen it on TV. The police sometimes come, very exciting. I heard once there was a topless lady running around the party. I don't know if any of this is even true, but I'm glad to be invited, you know. So I pile into a car with Nature Boy and Easy and Bird Dog and a bunch of others, and we head up to this little cabin. And Pierce's mom, Nature Boy's mom, is hosting us. We'll call her Mother Earth for the purposes of this story. And she's a very gracious host. It's a really nice house. We each have our own room. And when we arrive, she makes this big meal for us of spaghetti with meat sauce with a dollop of cottage cheese in the middle, which is something I'd never had before nor since. And after we're finished eating and we're ready to go to the party, we're all going off to have showers. And I quickly, get cleaned up, put on my finest 90s polo shirt and jeans, and I come back out to the living area, and all the guys are kind of snickering. And I'm like, what's up? And they're like, well, you don't have a nickname yet. So I'm like, oh no, I'm good actually. Yeah, I prefer not to have a nickname, so hard pass for me. And they're like, no, you got to have a nickname if you're gonna hang with us. And Easy. He was going into your room to grab something out of his bag when you were in the shower, and he said he heard you whacking off. And so now we're going to call you Spank Dog. Now let me be clear. I was not whacking off in the shower, okay? I was a teenage boy. Obviously, I masturbated a lot. But I would never tell anyone that I was doing it or be so uncouth as to be caught doing it amongst my friends in someone else's house. That's insanity, right? And I turned absolutely beet red. I'm fighting off tears, but trying to maintain my public school persona, with the long hair and my hard new persona that I've built up. And they're just laughing and calling me Spank Dog. As we get into the car, they won't stop. They're like, you got your seatbelt on there, Spank Dog? Hey, are the beers in the cooler cold, Spank Dog? And I'm just losing my mind. And we get to the party, and everybody who's everybody is there, right? The whole football team, all the beautiful girls who play field hockey, even the stars of the musical that I'm going to be in later that spring are there. They're juniors and they're seniors. And so I decide the best thing for me to do is to get ahead of this thing, right? So I run over to my friend Brooks. He lives down the street from me. He's 1 year older. He plays on the football team. And I'm like, hey, man, I don't know what you've heard, okay? Just want to make it clear, I was not jerking off at Nature Boy's house earlier. And he just looks at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I realized, well, okay, we just got here. It probably hasn't spread around yet. And also, I don't know Brooks. He just lives down the street from me. You know what I mean? He's an older kid who I've always looked up to, and we never had a conversation. This is way too intimate a thing to be talking about here. So I just kind of back away slowly, I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I see a girl in my class who's on the field hockey team, and I rush over to her and I'm like, hey, did you hear anything about what happened over at Nature Boy's house earlier? And she's like, what? No. What are you talking about? And I'm like, okay. Don't call me Spank Dog. Whatever you hear, I'm not Spank Dog. And then I look over and the guys are all over in the corner just dying laughing. They see what I'm doing. They haven't told anybody about this. It's just a stupid joke. But I've now started to dump gasoline onto the fire. And sure enough, it does start to spread around the party, and people start calling me Spank Dog and give me an elbow, and I'm just so deeply embarrassed because I grew up Catholic and we don't masturbate. We certainly don't talk about it, and so I do what any 16-year-old boy would do in this situation. I get violently drunk on beer and try to just completely forget about the whole night. And by the end of it, everyone else has forgotten as well, right? I mean, of course, on the way home, a couple more elbows in the chest and Spank Dogs, but by the end of the weekend, it's all over. And eventually, we all kind of grow up and everybody shed their nicknames, and most of them probably don't even remember any of these nicknames anymore. But when I do go back to visit Charlotte, I still have one friend. Every time I see him, every 5 years or whatever, he gives me a big hug and he says, "What's up, Spank Dog?" But now it brings a little smile to my face, I have to say. So, yeah, that's my nickname story. All right. We've given the latecomers plenty of time to get here, so now they are shut out. And we're going to get the actual show started. You guys ready for your first storyteller? Yeah. All right, we're very excited to have this first storyteller on the show. This is her first time appearing with us here on Awkward Teenage Years. She is the host of a show called Messy Queens, which is in Brooklyn, and it's the sexiest comedic storytelling show in the city, I'm told. Please welcome Gillian.
Yeah, can I hear? Oh, let's hear it over here for me. Let's hear it over here for me. Let's hear it. All right, in the back. All right, cool. I do have to say, is the live stream on? My mom's texted me. Hell yes. Hey, Mom! Love you, girl. Oh my gosh, how's it going, you guys? My name's Gillian. One thing you need to know about me is that I call all of my fans Gillionaires. Okay, do we have any Gillionaires in the audience? Oh my gosh, there's so many. Sit down, okay? Stop. Okay, what a challenge to keep the mic in the stand. Okay, can you believe I'm about to tell another story from North Carolina? What's going on here? Yeah, okay, give it up. No, everyone's like, we don't care. Oh my gosh, okay, you need to know that when I was in high school, I was in drama club. Are we shocked? No, okay. See, I need to take it out. So I can be like, are we shocked? No. Okay, when I was in high school in drama club, there was this girl named Bailey. Okay, does anyone ever met anyone named Bailey? Yes. I was saying I've never met a sane Bailey. I'll say it. But there was this girl Bailey, and I was like, oh, she's so cool. She had a really popular brother, which is everything. That's all you need in high school is a popular brother. But she was tall like me, and we're both in drama club and like outspoken, and I was like, we need to be friends. But the thing is, Bailey did have some, not so great qualities about her. She would kind of do this kind of horrible criminal thing where she would, like if someone would say something funny, she would laugh and then repeat that funny thing even louder, like she said it. Ooh, the audience is shocked. I know, jail time for that one. No, so she would wear leggings as pants all the time. I had a problem with that. I don't know, I've been digging deep in that in my life. What did that mean about me? But anyway, so me and Bailey were thick as thieves. We started to become friends because we both auditioned for Aladdin Jr. Is the photo up? That's me and Aladdin Jr. Guess who I played? Narrator number 2. Oh my gosh, I hope my mom loved that. So I was narrator number 2. Bailey was narrator number 3. Okay, again, thick as thieves. But so we got really close in Aladdin Jr. And I was telling her, I was like, oh, I gotta tell you something. Like, I have a crush, which is like the best thing to tell someone. That's all I ever want to do. I always have a crush in the room. I bet you're like, who is it? But so I told her, I said, I have a crush on this guy. She's like, tell me who. And I'm like, I have a crush on Granger. Ooh, the name sits in. Why is his name Granger? His real name was William Williamson, so he had to go by Granger. But he was 5'6", bleach blonde, had like washboard abs from doing absolutely nothing. So obviously Granger played Aladdin. Okay, come on, give it up. He played Aladdin. We were both narrators, and I was like, I gotta get me some Granger. And she was like, I can help you with that. Everyone's like, yeah, that's totally gonna work out, right? Don't you believe? Yes. Okay, we're getting there. So she's like, I can totally help you with that. And so I'm like, okay, amazing. Like, wow, didn't Regina George say that in a famous movie? How did that turn out? But so she was like, I can help you with this. And I'm like, okay, this is amazing. So we're in rehearsals for Aladdin. It's going well in Agrabah, One day we're rehearsing. Thank you. Okay, we're rehearsing the big number. I'm like, is this Act 1 or Act 2? We're rehearsing Prince Ali. Are we familiar? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for staying with me. But the thing is, we're about to press play on the boombox. Okay, real high budget here. We're about to press play on the boombox, and the only people who are not ready to rehearse are Bailey and Granger. Ooh, awkward teenagers. What could this mean? I know, and so I'm like, I get this, feeling in my gut, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet what's happening right now is that Bailey is talking to Granger about like how he should date me, right? Don't you think? And I'm just like, okay, where could they be? They're not, they're not in the bathroom. They're not by the lockers. You gotta say lockers like that. They're not by the lockers, but something tells me like, look behind the set. I'm like, I know that funny feeling. Aladdin, don't do that to you. I walked behind the set and my stomach, my jaw dropped. Bailey and Granger were making out. Oh, thank you, audience. Yes, it was so devastating. But I just was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got to keep on going. The show must go on. But it's kind of like super awkward in Agrabah. I'm just like, wow, I have to be narrator number 2 next to narrator number 3 who's betraying me. And Bailey and Granger start dating. It fucking sucks. But we do the whole play. It's fine. But it really was, I'll say it, a whole new world. Magic carpet ripped out from underneath me. But so that show ends, one show closes, another opens, you know how it goes. And in spring, we're doing a Holocaust play. Okay. It had a name, but, I know, it was a bunch of people in North Carolina who had never, ever met a Jewish person before. So obviously, we're like, we must do this. But so it's really cool because I'm the lead in the Holocaust play. And so is Granger. He plays my dad. Romantic. But Bailey's like ensemble bitch. And so we're in rehearsals for the Holocaust play. I'm reading through my lines. I'm watching Boy in the Striped Pajamas for research. And then, I know, groans. And then I'm going on Facebook Messenger and talking to all my friends about, reading my lines and watching Boy in the Striped Pajamas for research. Groan. But so it's really fun. One night I get a message from Granger. And it's so great because I really haven't talked to him a lot since everything went down in Agrabah. But, it's really nice to talk to him again. Like, we were friends before. He messages me and he's like, hey, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, there's someone else I want to be dating. And I'm like, who is it? He's like, guess. I'm like, okay, I love a game. He's like, yeah, you gotta guess. And I'm like, I don't know, give me a hint. Oh, flirting in high school, am I right? And he's like, she's really funny and really pretty. And I'm like, okay, I fit the criteria. And so I'm like, just tell me who it is. And he's like, it's you. I want to break up with Bailey and start dating you. I know. So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, fuck, this is amazing. Like, I know that like Bailey and Granger are dating and they're making out behind the set, but like we are texting over a scalding hot laptop. Be real, that's more important. And so yes, he still continues to date Bailey. But in my head, I'm like, okay, words speak louder than actions. And so it's really, really great. I'm just like so excited every day. I get home to Facebook message him and, do the Holocaust play. But then one day, one of my best friends is in the audience right now. Give it up. Okay. I love myself. And so what we would do in North Carolina, a real fun fine dining experience was we would go down to Myrtle Beach and we talked about Myrtle Beach before, and we would go to Olive Garden because when you're there, you're... Who said everything? That's actually better. So when you're there, you're everything. Ciao, Bella. So yeah, we would go to Olive Garden. We'd go down Highway 17. We'd pass the sign in Myrtle Beach where they're like, Vanna White was born here. And you're like, okay. But so we'd only really go to Olive Garden when it was like a big thing. Someone got broken up with or like someone got a solo in show choir. And usually all the car rides are like super loud. We're like, we're not gonna pay last year's rent. I know, everyone just got a shiver. It was so good. But in this car ride, it's like super silent. I'm like, something's up. But then I asked my friends, I'm just like, what's going on? They're being weird. They're like, nothing's up. But I got feeling my stomach like I did whenever I saw them behind the set. And we roll into the parking lot. I'm still thinking about when you're there, you're everything. That's so fucking funny. We roll into the parking lot, and I'm like, something is what? So funny to me. Something is up. And I asked my friends, and I'm like, what the fuck is up? Awkward teenagers, guess what they tell me? Just guess what they tell me. They go, we gotta tell you something, Gillian. So we talked to Granger, and it turns out that the whole time I've been, thank you. You got it, girl. You got a little, yeah, the whole time it was not Granger, thank you. It was not Granger messaging me. It was Bailey on his account. I know, like, how does one come back from that? How am I standing here still? I know, so I'm absolutely just devastated. It's unlimited tears, unlimited breadsticks, unlimited everything. And I'm like, oh my God, this is hell. Like, how am I ever going to recover? But again, show goes on. I do the Holocaust play. It's really great. I take the final bow, lead role vibes, of course. And afterwards, after the final show, Granger comes up to me, And he apologizes, and it's just really, really kind of full circle. I feel so weird about the whole thing because, I started becoming friends with Bailey because I thought she was just so cool. Like, she was the type of girl who would call everything dank. You know the type of girl, yeah. And so I just kind of thought, I was like, wow, I'm gonna be dank one day. Danny Granger would be dank. It's pretty dank, Do you think I fit the word dank? Do you think? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I just really, really wanted to kind of be that, but I'm kind of realizing more than anything, I'm like, Granger was not Aladdin. Bitch, he was Jafar. That was some Jafar shit right there. But what's really fun is that I got to be the bigger person. I got to just accept their apology, move on. And you know what being the bigger person is? Some would say it's dank. Thank you so much. Give it up for me. Oh my gosh, let's hear it over here. Oh, let's hear it over here. Oh, let's hear it, Will. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Any Gillionaires in the crowd? No? Oh, so many. Hi, Mom. Okay, give it up for Will.
Wow. Oh, I love high school musical drama.
You don't love it.
When I was a senior, I was in a show called Crazy for You. I was actually the lead. Yeah, give it up for me. Right? Oh, it works. Yeah. But my girlfriend was also in the show, and so all through the rehearsals and everything, not Bailey. And we were fighting throughout the whole rehearsal process and everything. When the show went up, we at intermission we would go out behind the theater and have screaming, yelling fights at each other, which everybody could hear. The whole cast. We're seniors, and there's these ninth graders in the cast who probably still talk about that. I imagine just how crazy we were. What was the name of the Holocaust play? Do you remember?
I'll tell you, folks. It's called The Hiding Place.
Okay.
Everyone's like, oh, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I was also in a Holocaust play in high school. I did know one Jewish person, though. He was not in the play. And when I think about that now, I hadn't thought about it in a long time. I cringed so hard. Yeah. Just all of us just having no idea what that experience is. Yeah, no context. And pretending to be so sad for an hour and a half up there. And it's just oh my God, why did the drama teacher choose this play? Just teach it to us in the class. Don't make us do it on the stage, Oh boy, yeah. Awkward times. Thanks. One more time for Gillian, everybody. Everybody clapped? You saw? Okay,
so.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Still a person put their hands together for me.
Good.
Great.
All right, keeping the show moving along. Let's get to our next storyteller. Really excited to have him back for the first time in a while. I think this is the fourth time on the show, maybe. I don't know. One of our favorites. He's also the host of the Astoria Bookstore Storytelling Show. Yeah, that's a free open mic that you can check out. And the next show is tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7. Right? Yes? Good. So if you enjoy storytelling, which you obviously do because you're here, check that out tomorrow night at 7. Please welcome David Lawson.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, let's hear about this guy. So a huge reason I love doing this show is because it's not only in person, but it's also streaming online. And I happen to know that my mother and my father are watching right now. And I'm really excited to perform a story about something that they have no clue happened. So yeah, this is the story of my final day of junior year of high school when I was 17 years old, the first time that I smoked marijuana. Yeah, buckle up, Mom and Dad, it's not gonna be too embarrassing. I was a really little kid when Just Say No was a big thing. And I think that did have an impact on me because I was terrified of drugs, kind of shaking in my boots about it. But one of my best friends was this guy, Mark, who was like, David, we should smoke some weed for the first time. I don't know how, we'll figure it out. We came up with the good idea of just going up to one of the bad kids at our school. And by bad kids, I just mean someone who smoked weed after school. And, asking them if we could just join one day. So it's the last day, junior year of high school. I go up to this guy, Scott. And I say, Scott, well, what are you doing today after school? And Scott so coolly just goes, same thing I do every day after school. And I was like, okay, well, could Mark and I join you? And Scott, again, very cool, just went, David fucking Lawson. Absolutely. And I was so excited. I take that last final. I get into my parents' car, thanks Mom and Dad, and I drive to Scott's place. It's Scott and some other bad kids. It's like Kyle, Peter, Scott's older brother, and they turn on the TV. You know, it's after it's daytime TV. It was 2003 at the time. It's Baywatch reruns, and so they're packing this bong. I'm like, oh my God, it's about to happen. So they start the rotation. It comes to me, I smoke, and the first thing I can think is, this is delicious. I even like, you know, I exhale, and I turn to Peter, one of these other bad kids, and I said, oh, everyone told me it was gonna be really gross, but I really liked it. And Peter, again, the very cool guys, they were just like, well, whoever told you that, David, is a fucking liar. And, you know, we're passing it around. We're making conversation. Scott's older brother starts talking to us. I grew up in Annandale, Virginia, about 15 miles outside of Washington, D.C. Scott says to us every now and then he's got to go to downtown D.C. for work. Sometimes for his afternoon commute, he rolls a J, and he makes sure to drive slowly past the White House with a J dangling out of his mouth and give the White House the finger. And I was like, this is the coolest guy I've ever met. And they were a little too cool, though, because all of them said, hey, Dave and Mark, this is so fun, but we actually gotta go, so, you know, get out of here, basically. And we're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So Mark and I, we get into my parents' car, and I start driving. Immediately realize I should not be driving. But I kind of gut my way through it till I get to the nearest parking lot, and I stop the car. I'm like, whew, made it. That was a bad call, but it looks like I'm okay. And this just wasn't any parking lot. This was a early 2000s Pizza Hut parking lot. And it was after 3 o'clock. It was before 6 o'clock. It was 2003. That meant that all-you-can-eat buffet was still a thing. Mark and I stumble out of the car. You know, we pay that dirt cheap rate. We are sitting there. We are stuffing as much pizza as two stoned 17-year-olds with like iron stomachs at the time could eat. Thing is, though, is every time I'm seeing anyone at this Pizza Hut who is even remotely wearing the color blue, I am leaning forward to Mark, and I go, Mark, it's the cops. It's the cops. It's not only the cops, but they know we're high, Mark. Mark, it's the cops. They're on to us. And my buddy Mark, he really was also very cool, because he was just laughing and really bluntly saying, that's not happening, David. You're totally fine. No one knows we're high. Debatable. Debatable. We leave the car there in the Pizza Hut parking lot, and we walk to some actual friends of ours, not just the bad kids who let us ride their coattails. We go over to our good friend Ari's, and it's Ari, it's Jimmy, and it's our friend Gareth. The three of them are hanging out. And we come into their place, and we don't say anything about, you know, hey, we're stoned for the first time, woo, like coming of age, yay. We don't say any of that, and none of them say anything. But all of them are doing like a real something seems they did talk about wanting to do this at some point, probably very bloodshot eyes. We're hanging out, no one's saying anything. We go hang out in the backyard, still hanging out, and our friend Gareth gets on this trampoline that Ari has in his backyard. And he's jumping around, and at one point, Gareth lands very awkwardly, clearly hurting himself, screams out in pain. And I saunter over to Gareth, and I say, oh no, Gareth, do you want me to drive you to the hospital? And Gareth looks me dead in the eye and finally addresses the elephant in the room. He says, David, I don't want you to drive me anything, because you're fucking high! And, you know, I am faced with one of my best friends getting hurt on the first day of summer vacation. I am very stoned for the first time. I have just been told I am stoned, and I do what I think is the correct thing to do, and I laugh in his face. Part of teenage years is, kind of stepping in it, empathy-wise, and being like, that was the wrong thing to do, which I soon discovered. And I really did have such a great time the first time smoking weed, but I was a little nervous. I was a little nervous about the fact that I got behind the wheel and how, that was the wrong thing to do, and how my best friend hurt himself, and I wasn't really, that was upsetting to witness, and I didn't handle it really well. But, oof, I did love getting stoned. Oh boy, it was great. So I said to myself, I made a boundary for myself that I kept the rest of my teenage years. Two things. One, I was only going to smoke marijuana once every calendar month. And two, every time I smoked marijuana, I was going to keep a journal and make an entry every single time. Now, that first time I smoked weed was June of 2003. That was almost 21 years ago. I still keep that marijuana journal to this very day. It is unquestionably going to be the longest term writing project I ever keep in my life. Today, I'm 38 years old. We're a couple years into New York State legalizing marijuana. I smoke marijuana a little more than once a month now, but I still keep that journal every single month. And 5 years after that first time I smoked marijuana, I was freshly out of college, and I got one of my first ever arts jobs. It was 2008. I got this arts job being a teaching artist, putting on shows and leading classroom sessions in middle and high schools. And one of these sessions was about recreational drug use by teenagers. And I had seen how Just Say No, maybe like shaking my boots, this abstinence only, a completely unrealistic thing. I think everyone accepts the fact that that was a bunch of fucking dog shit. But what they were having us say, they had this one part of the curriculum that I loved doing every single time, which is I would say, all right, everyone, I want everyone here to just take 20 seconds of silence and think about what your boundaries with drug and alcohol use are going to be. Now, I am not an education or health specialist, but I think that is a lot more progressive than just say no, don't do anything, abstinence only. And I really loved, I was fresh out of college, I was also very young, awkward college years, maybe the spinoff coming someday, we'll see, we'll talk. But I was freshly out of college, but I loved doing that part of the classroom session because that is the thing that worked for me. I did stick to that once a month. I did keep that journal. I still keep that journal. So I really love doing that. So yeah, for all of you here tonight, that is the story of the first time I smoked marijuana. And Mom and Dad, next time I see you, I'm just dying to hear your first story. Absolutely. Text me immediately. I'll say. But thank you all so much. Thank you.
Boy, my mom is not watching tonight. She does usually watch the live streams, but she'll watch the YouTube later. So, hey, Mom. Really looking forward to Mr. and Mrs. Lawson's reaction to that. It's going to be great. It's a good thing that you didn't grow up in Charlotte and go to my school, because if you'd come to me and been like, hey, can we smoke weed, I would have sold you some oregano. Because I was a real piece of shit. Yeah. It's funny though, to think about these stories now though, right? Because it's legal now, here and in Jersey and all these other states. And so I don't know, 20, 30 years from now, kids aren't gonna have the same kinds of stories about it, I guess, because there was such a heightened awareness of doing something illegal back then. You're just everybody knows am I, nobody really cared then, but now, really nobody cares, right? So yeah, this is an interesting phenomenon with the weed, but thanks for that, David. One more time for David, everybody. All right, keeping the show moving. Ready for our fourth storyteller of the evening. Our next guest is also a debutante here on Awkward Teenage Years. He's a father and theater producer, and just started doing comedy and storytelling in this last year. and recently appeared up in Beacon, New York on The Artichoke, which is a great show. So yeah, some fans here. Really excited to welcome to the stage Jamie Mulligan.
Hello. All right. Let that soak in. All right, so if I had to pick one defining factor of my teenage years, it would have to be teen angst. Exhibit A. I loved my angst and it loved me back. I leaned into my angst. I wrote sad poetry. I watched a lot of sad movies. I played sad songs on my guitar all by myself in my basement. I could not get enough of it. And for about 18 months, I wrote the word sad on my left hand every day. It gets worse. I would only do it in black ink, like my soul. And if anyone ever asked me about it, I would make this face and say, I don't want to talk about it, even though I definitely wanted to talk about it. So this was probably a plea for attention, but whose attention? Her name was Julie Smith. And she was magic, and I was in love and or obsessed. The problem was, Julie had a boyfriend. So I was doomed to a life of wallowing in my misery, in my basement, singing REM all day. You are the everything. Over and over and over. So, unrequited love was not my only issue in high school. I had a little secret I was ashamed of. And even though nobody knew about this, I was still bullied and called a faggot every single day in school. And so I came to what I thought very rational realization that what I needed to do was I needed to run away from home. And I decided to run away from home more or less on a whim. The idea occurred to me on a Monday, and I executed on a Wednesday. This was about 3 days, but I made a plan. This was the plan. I would go home after school. I would write a letter that explained to my parents why I was writing sad on my hand and the whole Julie Smith situation, and I would leave it by the front door, and I would sneak out, and I would grab my trusty old 10-speed bike, and I would pedal off into the sunset. That was the plan. You might be thinking, that plan's off to a good start, but it's missing a few big details. Like, where was I going? How long was I going to be gone for? Was this permanent? Was I leaving my home permanently? Where would I sleep? How would I eat? I had about $25 to my name. All very rational questions I didn't even think to ask myself. But it didn't stop me. So the moment came after dinner. No point in leaving before dinner. We were having burgers. I like burgers. After dinner, my parents are cleaning up. I leave the letter by the front door. I sneak out quietly. I get my trusty 10-speed bike, and I pedal down the street. And I'm free, and I feel exhilarated like I never have before in my life. And I hit my first problem about 200 yards down the road. I had not ridden this bike in a long time. What little air was left in the tires leaked out very quickly. I'm standing there in the street with a bike with 2 flat tires, and I can still see my house. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I am committed to this. I keep going. I walk my bike out of the neighborhood, down the main road, about 1.5 miles to the local high school. I sit down. It's late fall. It's cold and dark, and I am doing everything I can to block out all thoughts that I have just made a grand mistake. I need to sleep somewhere. But everybody I know goes to the Catholic high school that I do, like 3 towns over. The local high school, I don't really know anyone. But there's this one guy that I did some theater with in high school that lived in the neighborhood. I call him up. Here's how this phone call goes. Hey, John, this is Jamie Mulligan. You know, if you have to say your last name, you don't know this person well enough to make this phone call. This is Jamie Mulligan. How's it going? Oh, yeah? Cool. Me? I ran away from home. Do you think I could sleep at your house tonight? Long pause. He finally responds, hold on a sec. Let me ask my mom. 15 minutes later, he and his mom are in the parking lot picking me up. We got to stick my bike in the trunk, but it doesn't fit, so that the hatch is open. It's a very classy situation. They drive me back to their place. His mom is asking me all these questions, like, that basically want to know whether or not I'm being abused. And I don't want to say that. That's not true. I don't want to get my parents in trouble. So I make this face, and I say, I don't want to talk about it. So they give me a sleeping bag. We go to sleep. I wake up the next morning realizing what I have done, the horrors I have caused my parents, the insanity that this is, most embarrassing thing I have ever done in my life, for sure. John goes, so should I drive you to school? So I go to school the next day as if nothing happened. I am pretending it didn't happen. I am blocking it out. But word gets out. People find out. And so everybody is asking me all day, what's going on? And again, I just keep making this face and saying, I don't want to talk about it. Finally, 7th period, the guidance counselor calls me. You got to love the urgency with which a guidance counselor responds to a runaway situation. Second to last period of the day. Calls me into his office. I go into his office, and my mom is there. Okay. We go around in circles for an hour, them asking me all the questions. I don't want to talk about it. I have nothing to say. I just want to pretend it didn't happen. I want to go home and put this all behind me. So that's what we do. We go home, and of course, to add insult to injury, my dad makes me drive to John's house to pick up my bike. Oh yeah, fun detail. At this time, I had a driver's license and a car. I could have driven to run away. In the time it took me to walk to the local high school, I could have been at the Indiana state line. Six months later, Julie Smith broke up with her boyfriend, and I asked her out, and she said yes. I went and picked her up in my car, and as we're pulling out of the driveway, she says, so what's the plan? You'd think I would have learned my lesson. But I panicked, and I said, it's a surprise. And then I thought, where can I take this person that I've been wanting to go out with for 2 years? And after 20 minutes of driving on the highway, I took her to the Pizza Hut by my high school. And that was the first and last date I ever had with Julie Smith. Julie, if you're watching this at home, I'm sorry I was so weird.
I think that's maybe our first. Oh no, we had one other running away story a while back, but I love a good running away story, and I love that we have 2 Pizza Hut stories tonight. That's great. That's maybe the first time we've ever had Pizza Hut on the show. I wanted to run away in the 8th grade. My friend Miles and I, we were desperately unhappy with our very comfortable lives, and. We had made a little bit of a plan. We were going to run away from Charlotte to Raleigh, which is like 2.5 hours away. We're going to take the Greyhound bus. We're going to get to Raleigh, and this is not much of a plan. We're going to get jobs as gas station attendants. I don't know why we settled on that to this day. Also, like North Carolina is one of those states where you can pump your own gas. So there's not like a lot of those jobs. They're definitely not giving them out to 14-year-olds, But we were stoked. We were gonna do this, start our lives over, change our names, and then Miles's dad told him that he could smoke cigarettes at their house. He just kind of gave up that fight, and Miles was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna stay." And so I stayed, and then I never told anybody else about the plan, and we never ran away. Yeah, that really brought back that memory for me. Thank you. One more time for Jamie, everybody. All right, we've got one more storyteller for you tonight, but before we get to him, I just want to tell you a little bit more about our show. Perhaps you have been sitting there in the audience or at home on the live stream, Mr. and Mrs. Lawson, and you're saying to yourself, well, I have a great story from my teenage years. We would love to hear it. We would love for you to get in touch with us. Email us at awkwardteenageyears@gmail.com. Send us a little short synopsis of your story, and we'd love to consider it for one of our shows. Gillian pitched us on Instagram, and here she is. Yeah. And so you can also, contact us on the old social media. We're most active on Instagram for sure, but we also have the Facebook. We have a Threads account. Is anybody doing that? I don't know. But we have it. I don't know. We're not going to delete it because we deleted Twitter, baby. Fuck that guy, right? Yeah. So don't contact us on Twitter. And then we have LinkedIn or something too. Oh no, we have YouTube. Yeah. So we've done the show, as I mentioned earlier, for like 4 years. We originally did it as part of a Fringe festival here in this very space back in early 2020, right before the world shut down. And then we were at home and we thought, we don't have anything else to do. Let's keep doing the show on Twitch. And we did was it 1,000 live streams? No, it was I think it was 24 or something, a lot of live streams. We were doing it every week at one point. And then we started doing the live show again over at the Crane and then back here. And so we have all of those shows on our YouTube. You can go back all the way back to 2020 and see them all if you care to. Lots of wonderful, wonderful stories there. This very show will be on our YouTube somewhere between 5 and 30 days from now, whenever I get around to editing it. So please reach out if you do have your own story. And we are doing this show once every other month now, the first Wednesday. So our next show is going to be March the 6th, and then after that, May the 1st. And then July the 10th, because we're not going to do it on July 3rd because no one will come. So those are upcoming dates, and we would love to see you at another show. And that's the whole song and dance. So our final storyteller, really excited to have him back for the third time in what I think is going to be a nice third story in the trilogy. If you've seen his other stories, you'll really appreciate some of these details. He is a native New Yorker. He is a fantastic author of many horror novels, and he's also, a fun fact, former member of the New York Jedi, which is where we met. Really excited to have him back. Please welcome Marc Abbott.
Okay. If you knew me as a kid, I lived a very strict childhood. I wasn't allowed to go to parties unless my parents let it happen. Even going to high school in the city was a stretch. The fact that I got into LaGuardia was an amazing feat, but my mother was this constant I don't know about this. You out in the city by yourself. I'm not gonna be by myself, Ma. I'll be fine. So anytime I wanted to do any big thing, my dad wussed out and was like, go ask your mother. So I would have to ask my mother, and I knew there was all these caveats. So imagine now, my friends know my mother. They know the kind of woman she is. This is a woman that would put me on punishment for weeks and mean it. It was not no, you're on punishment. No, you wouldn't see me for 2 weeks if she said you were in the house. They knew that this woman had a thing about embarrassing me. For example, when I went to college, she yelled out across the room, we're leaving now, and if you plan on fucking anybody, make sure you wear a condom. Thanks, Mom. Thank you. So now I have to go ask my mother the one thing I didn't think she would let me do. Go see the Back to the Future trilogy. 3 films, back to back to back. Keep in mind, this woman is a math teacher. And so I explain this. The movie starts at 5, it's after school, and it's 3 movies, Mom. We're going to see the first one, then the second one, and the third one. Oh, okay, so you're going, what time does it let out? I don't know. But it's 3 films, back to back to back. And I'm going with my friends Jeremy, and we're gonna hang out and stuff. In the city, yes, that's where the movie theater is. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go after school. All right, you can go. So my friends are like, your mother does understand what this is, right? She knows it's 3 films. I explained this. Back to back, to back. She understands. So the promise is that I would call after each film, just so that she knew I was okay. So 5 o'clock comes, my buddies and I, we all meet at the theater, we stand on this long line, we go in, everybody's hyped up. This is the third film, the last film is the premiere. This means this is the one night it's coming out, I will see it before everybody else. And so we go in, we see the first one, we start cheering, I go outside, my friends, I get on the payphone, Mom, it's me, I'm checking in, just letting you know, the first film is done, I'll call you when the second movie's over. Click. Go back in, having a great time, second film ends, I come out, I'm like, Mom, just calling to give you a heads up. Second film is over, going back in to see the third film. Whoa, 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 whoa. What third film? The third film in the trilogy. Mark, it's like almost 9 o'clock. Yes, I know this, but we discussed this. It's 3 films, back to back to back. But you didn't explain to me that it was going to be all night. Mom, what part of 3 films did you not understand? So now all of my friends are standing there looking, and I know in their heads they're like, oh shit, he's going home. Because she's gonna, because I'm like Pavlov's dog. When Mom says come home, no matter where I am, I'm going home. I may get upset, but for some reason I go home. But this time, I'm not going home. You see, when I wanted to meet Clive Barker and she wouldn't let me, I went home. When I met Michael Jackson and he called our house and said he wanted us to hang out with him and my mother said no, I accepted that. But this, back to back to back. And so I hear her voice and she's like, you need to come home. Mom, I told you it's 3 films. You need to come home. I'm not coming home. I'm going to see this last film. I said you need to come home. I'm not doing it. When you got click. Remember, it's 1990. There are no cell phones. This is a payphone on the corner. And I turn around and everybody's. So my buddy Jeremy is like, do you realize you hung up on your mother? I'm like, yeah. Are you calling her back? No. We're going inside and we're gonna see this last film. The Telltale Heart is a story that sticks with me because that was me. The whole time sitting in this theater, I couldn't enjoy this film because I kept thinking, my mother's gonna figure out where I am. She's gonna drive to the city and she's gonna come into this theater. So every time I heard somebody that sounded like my mother, I'm sitting there. And my buddies are like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I cannot enjoy this movie because all I keep seeing is my mother's face. And I'm like, this woman is going to kill me. And my buddy's like, she doesn't know where you are. So you're good. So it is now after midnight. And I go to the payphone and I call home. My father answers. Hey. Yes. Dad? Yes. Okay, so here's the deal. I think I'm gonna stay with one of my friends in the city. What exactly did you tell your mother? In terms of what? You hung up on her. Yes, I know this. He's like, okay. What time are you coming home tomorrow? After school. Okay. So now I'm like, okay, I gotta go home. I can't stay in the city. Dad is talking. Mom's not answering the phone. And if my mother has gone silent, that means I'm really in trouble. And so we're walking to my buddy's house to the east side. And I look at him and I'm like, I gotta go home. He's like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I gotta go home. He's like, it's gonna take you like an hour to get home. I gotta go home. I'm going home. I'll see you at school tomorrow. You think? And I'm like, I don't know. So I get on the subway, and I'm riding the rails at 1 o'clock in the morning, teenage boy for the first time that late. And I get home, I walk up to the house, and I realize something. I have no keys. So I ring the bell. No answer. I ring the bell again. No answer. I do the family bell, which is 3 bells. Nothing. It's May, so I curl up on the porch and I go to sleep. Next morning, I feel on my foot, and I wake up and my father's standing over me. He's like, "When did you come home?" I was like, "I rang the bell. Didn't you hear me?" "Oh, that was you?" And I'm like, "Can I come in the house?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "Your mother's waiting to talk to you." So I go in, and there's my mother. And I'm like, "Hey, Mom." She doesn't say anything to me. Literally for 3 days. Not a word. And so now that telltale heart is even worse, because I'm like, I know this woman has got something she's itching to say. And 3 days later, my mother comes to me, she goes, "How was the movie?" It's like, "It was good. Are we good here, Ma?" And she goes, "We're fine." And if you know my mother, there's, "We're fine," and then there's, "We're fine." We were not fine. Thank you.
For me, the toughest part of that story is that you went through all that to see the worst movie, right? Back to the Future 3 is so bad. This is the one in the Wild West, if you remember. Oh my God, so bad. And you went through all that trouble. But amazing story. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. All right, folks. That is our show. Please give it up one more time for all of our storytellers, for Gillian, David, Emily, Jamie, and Mark. We've had a lot of fun here tonight. We're going to be back here on March the 6th doing this again. We hope that you will please come back. If you had a good time, please tell a friend. If you didn't, tell an enemy. We'll take anybody's ticket money. We'd just love to have a full audience. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.